Welcome to the SP Workplace Products Design Overview. In this video, we'll introduce you to the SP Workplace products. Whether you've purchased several modules or just a single module, it'll be important for you to understand some of the core design principles that were done and how the products are set up. So what we'll cover is we'll introduce you to the products, how the products are deployed into your SharePoint system, design principles, product administration across the products, content management, site pages design. We'll talk about how how documents are organized in the products, and then finally a little bit about product customization and what you have to watch out for when you're customizing the products. Let's talk about the basic design principles first of all. The products are designed with some assumptions, and the products often are going into a variety of organizations, anything from a small business all the way up to a larger enterprise business. But one of the assumptions we had in designing the products was that you may be coming to the products from Office 365 and you may not have a whole lot of SharePoint expertise. So we've made sure that the products are designed to actually be oriented towards business power user level people, not the users themselves, but the administrators. We've designed them to be a natural part of Office 365 using the common UI. So it's not really designed to have its own branding and everything else like traditional SharePoint enterprise products are, but it's designed just as Microsoft is going forward with it as a component of an Office 365 digital workplace. We also made the assumptions that IT can't do everything, that the departments and groups that are using the portals need to be able to manage their own portals by themselves, managing content, managing different aspects of the portals. And the other assumption we made is that non-IT users cannot do complex permissions. So you'll find that we take some different approaches to document permissions and doing permissions in the products themselves that keep the permission and security structure clear and simple. Some of our basic principles in designing the products, and again, these are software packages that are designed by professional software designers. And what that means is instead of a consultant who's going to design a one-off thing for you, all of the modules are designed with using consistent principles of design. First of all, across all the modules, the design is consistent, and we'll be covering some of those. We actually have reusable components in the modules. If you see a help desk or a service request system, that's done from a core service request function, and then we add to it depending on whether it's used in IT, facilities, or other areas. We also have packaged the product to buffer from the need to know internal SharePoint. So administration is done directly from our administrator dashboard, and we try to limit the need to actually go into the back end of SharePoint, such as site contents and site settings. Any of the modules can operate independently, yet when used together, they integrate into an overall workplace solution so that you can get the most out of them, whether using them for an individual function or using them for a complete intranet structure. The design of all the modules is role-based design. That means by type of user, you'll see workspaces and so on that is oriented towards a user and it's personalized. And then finally, we try very hard to keep it simple with the products, to not make them overly complex. And we give you the ability to hide functions or show functions as you want to use them. So you can make the products be as, fully functional if you want, or if you want them to take out functions you're not using, it's very easy to hide them. So these are the overall design principles, and it really is a complete out-of-the-box solution with predefined permission groups, predefined processes, notifications, and so on. Now, the set of products looks like this. It's actually an intranet that includes self-service. There is a projects module, And then there are different department modules. And the department modules are related to functions that are common in many organizations. However, they are all built off of a generic department, and you can get generic departments and apply them to things that you might not see here, like safety departments or other things like that. A department can be just as simple as a service portal and a staff portal with a service request system and document storage and other things in it. But also some of these other ones that are named here, marketing, facilities, HR, and IT, have full applications built into them. And it's all built on top of Office 365 and integrates with the functions of the platform. Now, what you're going to find is that they are out of the box ready, and we've built them natively. Now, what that means is that just like you could build a SharePoint site and have a document library and have a list and add some of your own things, we've used the same capabilities in SharePoint to build that, except obviously we put many years of work into it to use it. So it is native, out-of-the-box SharePoint, and we do that on purpose because that is the way Microsoft has recommended that things be built on top of their ever-changing platform. So they are native, no-code solutions, and we try to make them so that they are 100% customizable, so that you can add fields, you can change pages, you can do different things with document libraries. And because it is all SharePoint Modern Interface, it also works on mobile devices. So what you've got is a set of SharePoint sites that are built in SharePoint, and then we also make use of standard Microsoft products in doing the processing of business processes, notifications, and those type of things with Microsoft Flow that's built in. If we have mobile option or applications, let's say a field IT mobile view, that would be done with Power Apps. Any of our dashboards are done with Power BI, and if we're connecting to any outside systems, we use the 365 connectors. So we very much to try to keep everything native, and that's on purpose, because with that, we can be able to adjust and leverage the changes that Microsoft makes in SharePoint, unlike other vendor-built or consultant-built approaches, which may use code or change the master pages or those type of things. That's what gets you in trouble in the next round of changes, which are monthly from Microsoft. So key thing is, over 7 years, we've learned how to do this, and we've learned to do it as native as possible. So there are some underlying tools that we're using. So for forms, we find that the basic SharePoint forms are not really functional enough or rich featured enough to do what you need to do in the applications that we build. So this is the one place we use a third-party product. It is embedded in our products. We OEM it, and it's called Dynamic Forms, or DFFS. And this allows us to control the layout of the SharePoint list forms, tabs. We can actually apply tabs. There can be rules in the forms that say, what to display when. It could be to display fields when a certain category is picked, or even what field should be displayed for a certain user who has certain permissions. It allows us to display related lists within a form. It allows us to construct what is called a super view, which we use across a lot of our products, which means from whatever subject you're in, it could be an asset in IT, it could be an employee in HR, that you can see all other related activities and resources related to it, such as documents, in the same form. And many of our forms are role-based. As I mentioned, depending on who the user is, it may display a different type of form. Notifications and alerts are pre-built in all over the place in our products. We use MS Flow for those. We use those for notifications, reminders to follow up or follow-up type emails, and also we use it to do escalations based on triggers and conditions. We've pre-built a lot of these using MS Flow, but the nice thing is, because we used Flow, you can actually change them. We also use MS Flow for business processes, things like approvals, or the ability to create items like creating tasks or updating other things too. So again, MS Flow is used for any notifications and alerts or email type things, as well as different business processes. And then finally, we also use MS Flow and connectors for data integration. And it could be incoming data from emails or, say, a web form like a lead form into our CRM from your website, or it could be a support form that was filled out on your website into our IT or service request capabilities. It also allows us to use Microsoft connectors to connect to databases, other applications, and so on. And Microsoft's now up to about 450 of those out there. So what we're doing is we're making full use of the Microsoft Power Platform, and this is Power User Platform, and again, no code in any of this as well. And it gives a very powerful kind of behind-the-scenes capability to do things in our solutions. So let's talk a little bit about how these are deployed. These solutions are actually deployed over some of the basic SharePoint sites that are out there. So for instance, our intranet is actually deployed over a communication site, and our departments and projects and so on can be deployed over SharePoint group sites out there as well. And so what we do is we actually provision the additional lists and libraries over the communication site. We create a communication site and then deploy it, provision over it. That is how we get to our self-service intranet. For departments like IT, HR, or generic departments, we actually deploy both the staff portal, IT service portal, service requests, and the different functions of our departments right over SharePoint group sites. Now, the nice thing about this is, once again, it can all be brought together in a hub and spoke, which is what we do automatically during our install. And if you use Teams, you can actually connect the teams to the departments such that the IT team or HR team, people can actually access them through Teams. So the deployments are actually provisioning over base SharePoint sites. So let's just take a look at a little more what this means. So if we're taking a look at our intranet, our self-service intranet, you've got a base communication site. And in a base communication site, it has documents, one document library, and some other libraries and events. It's actually pretty basic. And what we do is actually provision a set of web parts, libraries, lists, additional site pages, and process flows right over this to make it become that self-service intranet. So that's what deployment's all about. Now, one of the things that we have found, and we've been doing this for 7 years and have over 1,000 accounts running our products out there, is we found that the core kind of secret to adoption is making things consistent. And if you look at it, a lot of what we're trying to do is provide products that are for end users, and we want them to adopt it. Well, if you think of those end users as customers there, if you take a look at industries that are very customer oriented or customer service based, one of the key best practices for them is consistency of how they deliver their services. And if you take a look at a bank, the whole industry, you walk into any bank, it's got tellers on one side, it's got desks on the other, and if you're going to do a transaction, you go to the teller. If you're going to do some type of loan or service, you go to the desk. Set up all the same way. So you don't need to walk in and wonder how to do it. McDonald's, same way. It doesn't matter whether you're in Paris, Chicago, or Shanghai. A McDonald's is always set up the same way because they want to make it consistent and easy for people to go get their product and their services. And same with retail. So we apply the same thing to our products. And whether you're using our intranet product or department product like IT or HR or facilities, it is built to actually fit into an overall consistent internal services structure. With the intranet at the top, we have, as part of our intranet, we have self-service or employee central for consolidating places that employees can get to news and documents here, and documents and resources here, service requests here, and processes here. So if you've purchased the entire suite, it does fit in together like this. And also, if you've purchased individual product out here, such as your RIT help desk or HRMS or other things such as our facilities, we also have consistent department designs where we have an employee portal or a service portal like a bank branch for people to come in and visit you, and a other side of the portal for the staff behind a security wall to be able to do the things that they need to do. So instead of just putting out a team site where only the IT staff or the HR department can share things, and then worrying about did they set the permissions right if anybody comes to visit them to get services or resources from them, the departments are all set up the same in a service model that has two sides to the portals. And that's designed on purpose that way. That's part of what we call an operational portal structure. And all of our products actually fit into that. Even our projects product, our CRM product, also can integrate with the other products. Now, irregardless of that, we also do things consistently across all of our products. So one of the things that we'll be covering here is how we do administration, how you actually administer that model, that module that you have. Content management, how you set up news and announcements and manage those is the same across all the different products. Site page design, that home page and what workspaces look like are all consistent. Document organization is consistent. How we actually build business processes with approvals is completely consistent. And then also many of these products have some type of service or help desk in there that is done consistently as well. And what that means is if you get one product and learn about it and you decide to get other products, they will work the same. The other thing that we have is we have role-based design elements out here. And so one of the things you'll see is that we have predefined security groups. So for instance, SPMP admin, this is a group here. This is global admin for all the modules. So it's all the same. You're not having to do things differently by module. In the intranet, there is content managers group. Everyone is employees. And then in departments, we have both a staff group and sometimes a managers group. And then for projects, we have a PMO, PM, and team member group. But you can see how they're all based on roles, based on the function of it. Now, we apply these roles several places. We apply them to the navigation and menus. So depending on who you are when you come into one of our modules, you may get a bit different set of menus. We apply it to forms. Some forms may have different tabs for different people. We apply it to site pages. In what we show and content in the pages can be personalized. And in lists and libraries, we also have filtered views by roles. So what that allows us to do, too, is to personalize things. So you can have audience-based personalized navigation, views, list forms, and workspace by role, too. And you can go in and modify that and change it as your organization needs very easily, again, without code and without having to go into the back end of SharePoint to find that. So look, now that's kind of an overview of all the products. Now let's get into some specific areas. Administration. Every product in their menu has an administration menu item. And that is where the administrators of the products actually manage the product in some way. So it could be related to setting up the product or application administration. And the way we do it is to provide what we call administration dashboard. And it has everything from the getting started, which is actually setting up the products, to managing different links that are on the front page. Those are the icon-based links here, categories, navigation menus, site images, even changing your logo and assigning permissions are all part of this. And you can easily do that from the application administrator dashboard. There also is a getting started. So when you actually start with the product, if you go to getting started, there is actually a step 1, step 2, step 3 to configuring the product for your needs out there. Now, if you're doing our full start, we actually do that with you, our full start service. If you're doing quick start, we'll show you in essence where this is and point out how you can get started with this. Also, if you have to go in and change things, like change a request status or request type, this is for a request list, you don't have to necessarily go into the list. We have a configuration reference that's built into the application management dashboard. And so if you need to, change the drop downs of request type in this list, you can actually reference it here and go right to that to change the configuration. And what this really saves you, by the way, is having to go in and have multiple steps through the back end of SharePoint to find this. Finally, support. There is a support configuration page. We have a customer portal that has a knowledge base available to you. You can submit support requests from here and also link to resources and videos directly from this. And every page of the product actually has a link to get information on whatever function or feature you are in the product. We have links to both documentation and videos right there. Next, let's talk about content management. Now, what is content? Well, if we look at a department or we look at the CRM or whatever, we can see that, again, this is not just a business process application. It's actually a collaborative portal that contains, the application you're using. So it may have announcements for the staff of this application or module. It will have a shared calendar as well as potentially links and even news items. So this is what we mean by content. Even the links that you see on the front of the page here are what we call content, and you can control those. So the question is, how do you actually change that? How do you set it? Well, every product has a content manager dashboard built in. And so, of course, for the intranet, that's a lot bigger, but for a department, we have content at that level too. And so there is icons to go add announcements, add news items, to change the links on the front of the pages right here. And that's common across all products. And the other thing too, and again, this is more applied to if you're using our intranet and the intranet structure, is that if you're using a department out there, you can have announcements and news and events in the department itself. But if you're using it with the intranet portal out there, the internet homepage and its structure, you can actually promote news and announcements and events up here, and there's a full governance capability to approve those. So it is all linked together from a content perspective. Now let's just take a look at site pages, and this will help you in kind of navigating around different products. Almost every product consists of a home page, and again, this is set up specifically and consistently across the products. And the home page will generally link out to lists and libraries here, role-based workspaces. Okay, this might be if it's the CRM, the salesman's workspace, or if it is HR, it could be a My Workspace for the HR staff as well too. So that's also consistent across the products as well. So if we take a look at this, the site page general design principles, we've done a lot of work on, what should you put on pages and so on, what to make it effective. You're going to see that almost on every page there is a set of links that is the most appropriate things. This happens to be the IT portal, so we can link to help desk and assets, as well as be able to go to a knowledge base. There's also usually on here links to group type things in Office 365. So to the IT teams, maybe the shared planner across the IT group, OneDrive, and as well. You'll also find things on the front page that are the things that are changing. Any announcements that we need to bring forward and alert people to, staff schedules, news, and then any links that are just reference links. So for IT, you might need to go to Microsoft support or HP support or Dell support. There's convenient links right on the front page here at the staff links. So This is almost exactly the same across many of the products, obviously with different components or content on it. Now, since modern SharePoint came out, we also had to put together some of our own web parts to make it complete. And so we have an announcements web part. Modern SharePoint does not have any announcements web part, and that's generated, allows you to display from a announcements list. We have something called promoted links. This is different than the quick links that are a web part in standard SharePoint, that you're actually putting links on the page. Promoted links actually displays links from a list, which allows you to actually manage the links. And you could put in audiences on the links of who should see what link. You can also have links expire, if you wish, on the page too. So it gives you more management capabilities. By having the link information in a list, it allows you to use the metadata to manage it. My links is in the intranet. This actually allows users to pick their own links to display automatically when they come in. There is actually a links list that we have that's based on links too, which can be managed. And if you wish, you can use our news web part, or you can use the Microsoft's out-of-the-box news as well too. So we have added those to it. You'll see those. Let's talk about document organization. Now, this is obviously different depending on the module that you're using, but one of the things that if you are using our departments and intranet, you'll really want to make sure you understand, how we actually organize documents out here. And so one of the things that we don't do is have all the documents in one site and in one set of hierarchy of folders. That's not a very good way to do things. It actually can get out of hand. And we really think it should be that documents and resources should be put where in the context of where they're being used, and that's usually within a function or a module. Now, one of the things that we do that is very different and maybe a little hard for people to understand, but we find it works very well, is we use the bucket approach to documents. So instead of the traditional file server approach, which has one set of documents and a very complex set of folders and hierarchy, and then you also have to worry about, did I set the right permission level on each folder, because everybody's coming to get to the folders. We use a structured portal approach. We locate the libraries that documents are going to be in the context of where they're going to be used. So if it's HR employee documents, they are in the HR portal. If it is IT warranties, contracts, whatever it is for IT assets, it's in the IT portal. But the other thing that we do is each of the portals, especially if it's a department, this is in particular, has multiple document libraries. One of them is, and they're role-based, it's by use. So if their document is just going to be used by the staff, let's say the HR staff, it's going to be in the shared documents library. If it is something that HR wants to share with all users out there, there is another document called Useful Resources that is part of the employee portal part of the site, and the HR staff can place things they want to make available to all users in this. That way they're not having to set permissions. They're actually using what we call a bucket approach, predefined buckets that says, I want certain people to consume these documents, I'll just put them over here and make them available. Okay, and if you think about a bank branch, that's how they do it. You don't go in and rifle through the file cabinets behind the tellers. They have places that you can get information out in the branch, and they don't let you behind the tellers to get to documents and then try to sort it out by folder. So we're using the same thing here, and we find it works very well. And it's important that you try to understand this because it's going to be key to your success. Okay, and so what that does, though, for documents is it allows you to actually, from a best practices standpoint, if you're using the whole structure, to actually categorize documents and be able to distribute them. So general policies, procedures, and forms can be put in Doc Central there, and they're actually populated from policies being pushed up from the departments. documents that are kind of resources for employees, like I need to find a quick reference card, or I need to see something from HR about how to conduct an interview, or that type of thing, is actually kept down in the service portals in the departments, and there is a search here so that employees never could stumble on to some of the things they're not supposed to get into, because those are kept behind the security wall over in the staff part of the portal here. So by setting up this structure, and if you're using even just our IT or facilities product, you'll see there's 2 libraries. That's the reason why. And there also may be projects that are using documents. You can also put those related to the project as well, too. And what that means is that those people working on the project, we can cross-reference the project to those documents. We could cross-reference an IT asset list item to a warranty that's related to it, because we're storing the documents in the context of where they're being used. Okay. Now, let's just talk quickly about departments. If you're using projects here, you know, Project Tracker, you could probably stop in this case. But departments, we actually, instead of just using a team site where everybody's just mingling together, what we do is we actually take a team site model and create 2 areas: a staff portal that the staff can work in, and it's a secure area, and they can get to documents, task tracking, service requests coming into their organization, calendars. So it's a collaboration portal, along with even accessing different business processes. And then for people that they serve, and a lot of departments, whether it be quality, whether it be safety, whether it be IT, HR, are providing services to the organization. So why not treat it like a bank branch and create a self-service portal? So in one SharePoint site, you can have a place for employees to get what they need, to find resources and so on, and a secure place for the staff to do their things. And what this really does is it drives self-service for employees, and it really drives productivity for the staff and collaboration with this model. And the other thing from a consistency concept perspective is we have generic departments, and which every department has a service desk, documents, communications such as news and that type of thing in it, tasks and event tracking, a dashboard, and it has 2 portals, that staff and employee portal. And it's ready for customization to be whatever type of department you might want to make it. So let's say we wanted to create a finance department. We could add a budgets library, a vendors list, a collections list, and all of a sudden it becomes a finance department. Now, we use this same model in our package departments for those like IT, HR, marketing, and facilities management. We started with this generic department and created every one of these by adding lists and libraries relevant to those functions. So what that means, though, is that every department has a consistent design, and that's really helpful when trying to train people, and it's really helpful when employees have to go into a very consistent service department or employee portal. They're very much the same. So from the user's perspective, they're going into a consistent, like applying the McDonald's concept there. And that's pretty. Okay, finally, let's talk about product customization. So in customizing the product, there are simple customizations and there are more advanced. So let's say you want to take and turn a generic department template, as we saw earlier, and make it a finance department. And the finance department says, hey, I love this. We want to share calendars and track tasks and all that stuff. We even want service requests so that we can, people can ask for reports from us and so on. But they say, but also we'd really like, we have this whole budget process that uses Excel spreadsheets. We'd like to have a separate budgets library so we can keep that. We manage vendors a lot, and so we'd love to have a vendors list. And we also do collections as well as part of our accounting and finance. So we'd like a collections list. And you can do all that. You can take and turn that generic department into a finance department and give them both the data and the libraries that they need by doing customizations. So let's look at what customizations are. Simple customizations, adding fields to existing lists, no big deal. You can do that. Changing site pages. Okay, that would be like, maybe adding a weather web part to the front of a home page or something like that. Changing navigation menus. Maybe you want to hide something like you don't want to use the blog or something like that from your intranet, or on IT, you don't want to use the change request function. And so you hide that to just simplify it. Those are simple customizations. Those, you don't have to worry about breaking anything or doing that. There are more advanced ones, adding new lists and libraries. Generally, that's okay, though it's not just adding the list or library. You need to add a navigation thing to get to it, and that type of thing. Adding notifications or approvals using Flow. Well, you need to know how to use Flow, and that can be a little more complex. You can also go in and try to change notifications or those type of things too, but you got to know Flow. I wouldn't mess with those. There is simple notifications off of a list that you can do that we typically show you in our full start. Changing processes that are out there. If we have processes that are writing new items or creating tasks or anything like that, make sure you know what you're doing there. And then integrating outside systems, of course, is more advanced, and that's usually using Flow and connectors. Now, there's some guidelines on customizing because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. So let's look at the customization rules. Number one, know what you're doing. If you don't know SharePoint, don't go in and change a whole bunch of stuff. Don't go deleting things. You're just going to, we've had people that go in and just start doing stuff, and we have to end up reinstalling the product. They've done so much damage to the thing. So make sure you know what you're doing, and we've got some suggestions to help you get up to speed. Review our customization guidelines document. It's a separate document, and it basically says what you can change and what you cannot change that'll get you in trouble. So a lot of the safe changes are, changing, adding list views to lists. That's no big deal. Even adding fields to lists and adding them onto the form. Navigation menu changes don't usually break a whole lot of things, though you do need to make sure that you know what you're doing there. But a lot of times that's to hide things, or if you are adding a new list or something for that. Site page minor changes. Don't go and just delete everything off the site page. I've seen people go in and really just mess them up. A lot of the things that are out there for a reason, and theme changes are safe, changing the colors and that type of thing. Now, more risky changes are deleting or changing fields. We do not want you to delete any fields. You can hide them, but don't delete them, because deleting them can actually completely break flows out there. It almost always may break a flow, because if there's a flow creating an item in that list, if there is no field there, the flow will break. And changing fields, just be careful on that, and you might even want to check with us. Changing flows is risky. Deleting lists or pages, hide them, don't delete them, is our big recommendation. And deleting or changing permission groups, you can add permission groups, but don't go deleting permission groups, because again, you may be breaking governance. So again, what could happen? Business processes or notifications no longer work. Undoing some of the integration function across products. They may be there because of that. Predefined security or governance is undone, for instance, too. And when you're adding even things like navigation, you want to make sure you might want to use audiences there. So our suggestions is, if you're going to be doing customizations, is if you're going to be doing a lot of them, sign up for our DIY training. This is the do-it-yourself customization class, and learn how to customize the products, learn how to use Flow, SharePoint, and those things. Second, at minimum, take some more advanced SharePoint training so you know what you're doing. And then finally, we do suggest, if you're going to make changes to the product, call us ahead of time, and just let us know what you're going to do, and we can advise you of if it's going to break anything out there. So this has been the design class for the products, and hopefully it was helpful and gives you a view of how the products are designed, how you can consistently use the product so that if you're using one, things will apply to the other ones, and also some advice around things like customization. Appreciate your time, and do call us or ask questions on anything that you're doing.